So this person is a junior architect or designer based in Manila. He graduated from De La Salle College of St. Benilde last October 2020 and is now part of a team designing a post-pandemic school setting. Apart from his work, he's also a mixed media artist where he actively participates in art exhibitions and sells most of his works online. I proudly present to you Mr. Levyn Purcil.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I am Lev, and I'm from the Philippines. Today, I will present about education in the 21st century. Based on my experience as an architecture student and also as a designer, so I will focus more on learning systems that I think are effective and also design solutions that we use in our current architectural design project. First, I would like to share about my college learning experiences and Benilde's learning systems and learning spaces. So I would start by showing you different learning settings. And the first one is the traditional classroom, which we are all familiar with. Normally, students will be seated in rows and an instructor or a teacher presents a lecture in front using a board or a screen. And the next one is a Montessori type of classroom. Compared to a traditional classroom, Montessori classrooms are designed more freely. This supports a system that encourages a student to finish a task at his or her own pace. And students are given the freedom to choose however they want to finish their tasks, whether it be individually or with their peers, with the help of different learning materials. And the third learning setting that I would like to share is the studio classrooms. Studio classrooms are usually used in college for design and technical courses, such as architecture and interior design, fashion design. Somehow it has similarities with laboratory setting. So in Benilde School of Design and Arts, this is where I studied in college. So we Benilde design students are known for always being outside our classrooms, not because of cutting classes, but because our studio classrooms are flexible and our system promotes a progressive approach of learning, where learning is not limited or bounded by the walls of a classroom. So this image shows my professor back in college. Instead of being in front of a screen or a board, he instructs his students in front of our macro scale model. So the most prominent learning setting I've experienced in college is the studio classroom. And as architecture students, we are required to do miniature and large scale models. Most large scale models would not fit in most classrooms. So because of that, we tend to extend our activities and space programs outside the classrooms. For example, in this image, our macro city model is located at the corridor or our hallway. And because of large-scale models, we also use our hallways and corridors as secondary workspaces. These are photos of me and my friends. So we constructed kinetic structures in 1:1 scale. And aside from workspaces, our hallways are also converted into galleries. This exposes students to exhibitions or public presentations and encourages collaboration, critical thinking, and public speaking, which I think are really important in a designer's life. So this is a usual site in our building. Scale models are scattered around hallways and classrooms. And then, of course, more large-scale models. Models help us understand how our ideas can work in reality and not just stay as merely ideas. And this is one of my favorite places in our school. This is our Learning Resource Center or the library. as I like borrowing architectural books. And this is also one of the places where we can charge our laptops and phones when we're not in class. So the LRC also provides small rooms that can be rented for group discussions or consultations. Unfortunately, we are not allowed to do art activities inside the LRC except for sketching or illustrating. So we are still somehow forced to work in classrooms or in hallways. And this is our learning commons. This is where we sleep, literally. Being design students, there are a lot of sleepless nights, and this space helped us by allowing us to take naps. But some also use this as a workspace. And this one is called the generator because its intention is to provide a space where students can collaborate and generate ideas. During midterm and finals week, this space is open for 24 hours. So students are allowed to work here overnight. And as architecture students, we also experience working with communities. So this is one of those moments where our learning is happening outside the classrooms and outside our school premises. And for this one, our classroom is a heritage structure due for restoration. And one of the things I love about College of St. Benilde is that they exposed us to work. They exposed us to works of different artists from different fields. So visual artists, directors, singers, etc. By bringing in their works and showcasing exhibitions. So this space is just one of the galleries of School of Design and Arts. So here's another example of an exhibit. And our building is also directly connected to the Museum of Contemporary Arts and Design. So this exposes us to more art and exhibitions. So this is me and my friend visiting the exhibit in Museum of Contemporary Arts and Design. And of course, we also have our own exhibition or public presentation as thesis proponents. And this is me when I presented my final thesis presentation back in 2019. And back in 2017, I enrolled in MetaArt. So it stands for Metaphysical Architecture. It's an alternative school for arts and design. And this alternative school promotes outdoor learning and learning without walls. So it actually uses nature as its learning laboratory. For example, this river. This is where these learners ideate, observe, and create. So you can see people share their ideas or their observations about what they saw on the river, on the rocks, or whatever they saw in the environment. This image shows students preparing their materials for installation. And here's an example of an output in MetaArt where we install different materials to nature elements to create architectural forms and systems. And this is another example by yours truly. So I installed these wood blocks on a log that I found. And this is my last output in MetaArt, a prototype of an abstract birdhouse. Being outdoors helped us to observe our surroundings, and it helped us to think more critically and be more creative. And again, learning should not be limited by the walls of a classroom. So, and proceeding to my current design project, which I am a part of. So we're currently designing a school for a post-pandemic setting, and we all know how COVID affected us. COVID really forced us to shift or change our ways of living, and unfortunately, it also affected our education and learning. So we shifted to online classes, and eventually, I think it will shift to hybrid learning, a hybrid learning system. where half of a batch would attend online classes and half of them would go to school physically. And of course, we considered social distancing. So here in the Philippines, we're using 6 feet or 2 meters for social distancing. And that's for all directions, north, east, south, and west. And proper ventilation is important because this helps to help indoor spaces to breathe more. And the best way to have proper ventilation is to have outdoor learning areas and to have a separate washing station aside from those in the comfort rooms. And of course, convertible or flexible spaces. And these two photos show the same space but used in 2 different ways. So the image on the left, it is used as a presentation or a public presentation space, and on the right image, it is used as an exhibition space. And to create effectively configure spaces, we can make use of convertible or movable furniture, such as this from steel case. These movable panels, tables, and chairs can easily manipulate a space or change or transform a space. And there, that ends my presentation. Thank you.
All right, so thank you very much for your very specific and very insightful presentation. So this time we learned about the insights from an architect's perspective. I think it was most interesting when a part of the presentation explained how important it is to try to go out the 4-cornered wall classrooms and try to have it a more open space, is it? While still making sure that people are still interacting within the same environment. And so I think that was a very insightful thought. And I didn't actually think about that while I was making the questions or the guide questions. So thank you very much again. So once again, a round of applause for Mr. Lev.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so now we will move on to our Q&A. So, does anybody have any question for our resident junior architect here? All right, so I think there's one. So, can you please turn on your microphone and camera?
Hi. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
First of all, thank you for your wonderful presentation. It was just a great experience for me to hear a real architect to talk about the architecture of the modern architecture. And I just have one question for you.
Okay.
Is there any a specific topic or a way of a classroom for a future education that just comes up in your mind? Anything that you're interested in?
Honestly, because of this pandemic, I think change is really constant. I think change is really constant. So, I feel like classroom settings would also change. For example, right now we're in our rooms, we're in our homes, and we're still learning. We're interacting with our professors, with our teachers, with our classmates, and eventually, I think not only classrooms but other programs or other space settings would also change. So, for example, we're already using outdoor spaces as classrooms, so that might continue, especially that we need proper ventilation and basically more space. So to accommodate more number of students. So I think all of that will really change based on what happens after this pandemic and during this pandemic.
I see. So it's like a diversity of education style would be.
Yes. Design always adapts to what is currently happening. So.
Right. I see. It's very interesting. So it's like an image of so the ordinary classroom style would change into something other, like maybe in different places, maybe using different places as classrooms. I think it's very interesting.
Because I think that classroom activities can really happen in anywhere, and what's important is the students and the teacher, the instructor. So as long as you have those two, you can do whatever you want anywhere.
I see. Very interesting. Thank you for responding to my question.
Thank
you very much.
None from the audience? All right, so maybe I could ask the question? Oh, all right. Please go ahead.
Sure. Hello. So that was a really interesting presentation. I didn't even think that architecture could be incorporated into education. So that's really cool. I just wanted to ask, how did you start in this trying to make education better with architecture? Did you start off with architecture first, or did you have a fondness of education? I'm just curious.
I think generally architecture responds or focuses mostly on space. So it responds generally to what we need in a space. So whatever we need right now, whether it be on culture, education, it could always respond by providing us a space for our activities or for whatever we need. And if ever there are changes in education systems and pedagogy, and then I think architecture could also still adapt and respond to that.
Oh, so I'm sorry if I'm not understanding. Sorry if I misunderstood. But did you start this because of the pandemic? And
the outdoor classrooms?
Yes. How? Because it seems like you have a lot of emphasis on ventilations and making sure that we're all COVID friendly.
Oh yes. For the MetaArt part of my presentation, the Alternative School of Design and Arts, it really promoted outdoor learning setting. But for the design project that I'm currently working on, it's really trying to respond to the pandemic. So it's really trying to provide solutions on how we can go back to schools without worrying too much about getting infected by the virus. And one thing we can always do, not just in schools, but also in our homes, is to have proper ventilation. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you once again, Mr. Lev, for answering our question, and as well as for sharing us with your knowledge about architecture. So one round of applause for Mr. Lev, please, and emojis from people on Zoom.
Thank you. Thank you.